Welcome students to these lectures of English literature which we are carrying out. Now we are going to look at the age of Pope today, which follows the Restoration Age. The Restoration Age comes to an end in 1700 with the death of Dryden, who was the representative figure of this age, of the Restoration Age. And the next age that we are going to look at now today is the age of Pope, or it is called the Augustan age also. It is also called the age of prose and reason. And of course, it comes under the neoclassic period also. So we have to keep in mind that these are all the same, these names are for the same era. Why is it called age of Pope, like the earlier age was called age of Dryden? Because Pope is the largest literary figure in this period. जो अलेक्जेंडर पोप थे वो इस एरा के मेन लिटरेरी फिगर हैं और उन्हीं के नाम से ये एज कहलाती है द एज ऑफ पोप. अब जो पोप थे वो एक पोएट के तौर पे सबसे ज़्यादा मशहूर हुए और अभी भी हैं. तो उनकी जो पोइट्री थी वो इस एज में स्टैंड आउट करती थी, बिकॉज ये एज जो थी वैसे एज ऑफ पोइट्री नहीं थी, ये एज ऑफ प्रोज थी. और उस एज में पोप स्टैंड्स आउट एज द बिगेस्ट एंड मोस्ट important poet. So the age of Pope starts in 1700, the Augustan age. Why? Again, yesterday in the previous lecture I explained to you why is it called Augustan age, because they were imitating the models of poets like Ovid, Horace and Virgil, who were flourishing in the age of Emperor Augustus in Rome, who was the first emperor of Rome. So the poets and the writers of this age of Pope were copying the models. They were translating also the works of those old Latin poets, the ancient poets, and also writing on that model. I mean, writing their own works, imitating. So that is why it is called Augustan, and it is also called neoclassic because they were imitating the classics, but they were not exactly of the standard of those Latin classics. So we have to call it neo-classical, or sometimes it is called pseudo-classical age also, because pseudo-classic would be a work which is trying to imitate a classic, but it does not reach that standard or that level. तो एक कॉपी हो रही है वो एंशंट वर्क्स की, बिकॉज एलिजाबेथन जो मॉडल्स थे उनको ये वाले राइटर्स इग्नोर कर रहे थे. दे वर इनडिफरेंट टू शेक्सपियर, मिल्टन, स्पेंसर. दे थॉट दैट नो, you know, the ancients are superior. The Roman writers, I mean of the Roman Empire, they should be followed. The classical models should be followed. तो ये शेक्सपियर की जो प्लेस को स्टेज भी होते थे तो लोग उनको आई मीन इंटरेस्ट से नहीं देखते थे, जो कि एलिजाबेथन एरा में अल्टीमेट माने जाते थे शेक्सपियरियन प्लेस, वो इस एज में आके अनपॉपुलर हो गए थे. तो ये जो एज है वो एकदम जैसे जॉन ड्राइडन की एज में ऑल द रूल्स आर बीइंग फॉलोड, ऑल classic rules of balance, order, precision, good sense and wit. All those things exist in these classic works, the neoclassic works, and especially in the works of Pope, who is now going to be discussed first. Because जो Pope थे वो एक इस तरह के पोएट थे कि वो इतना डोमिनेट कर रहे थे इस एरा को, और इतने डोमिनियरिंग भी थे. सिर्फ डोमिनेट ही नहीं कर रहे थे अपने वर्क से, बट अपनी नेचर से भी वो इतने डोमिनेट कर रहे थे कि जो दूसरे पोएट्स थे वो उनके सामने टिक भी नहीं पाते थे, और ना ही वो उनको टिकने भी देते थे. ही वॉज सच अ पावरफुल राइटर. पर वो जो एक उनमें फ्रस्ट्रेशन थी, थोड़ा वो बीमार थे और थोड़ा डिफॉर्म्ड भी थे, थोड़ा he thought that he was not he did not look very good, he was short. तो वो जो एक उनकी टेम्परामेंट बड़ी बिटर सी हो जाती थी कई बार. एंड ही यूज टू attack his rivals and he used to attack his critics also. अगर कोई उनकी पोएम के अगेंस्ट कोई क्रिटिक लिख देता था कि ये इनकी पोइट्री ये अच्छी नहीं है, इसमें ये गलती है, इसमें ये खराबी है, तो वो उस चीज़ को बर्दाश्त नहीं कर पाते थे और वो अपने ऐसा एक वर्क लिखते थे जिसमें उस क्रिटिक को या जो दूसरे पोइट्स थे जो उनके राइवल्स थे उनको अटैक करते थे थ्रू सटायर, और दूसरे दूसरे उनके नाम रख के और उनको उस किताब में वो अटैक करते थे ताकि कोई ये ना कहे कि भाई हमारा नाम आपने लिख दिया और हमें अटैक किया, तो दूसरे नाम के नीचे उसकी गाइज में वो अटैक करते थे क्रिटिक्स को और बैड पोइट्स को. वो सोचते थे कि सारे पोइट्स जो है वो बैड पोइट्स हैं, एक पोप जो थे वो अपने को बेस्ट पोइट समझते थे. सो दैट इज़ वाई ही वॉज रेनिंग सुप्रीम. एंड उनकी जो मेन वर्क्स थे, एक तो उनका था एसे ऑन क्रिटिसिज्म, एक उनका था एसे ऑन मैन. अब ये एसेज तो हैं बट ये वर्स में लिखे हुए थे, पोइट्री में लिखे हुए थे. He used to write his essays in verse. So that is something very unique of this age, that the essays are being written in rhyme, in heroic couplet, which was again carrying on from the age of Dryden. And heroic couplet was perfected even better by Pope. In the days of Dryden, it was not so refined, but Pope worked very hard and made the heroic couplet a very perfect kind of tool for his poetry. And a special thing about his heroic couplet was that each couplet contained a complete thought. ऐसा नहीं है कि एक कपलेट आपने लिखा और उसमें वो पूरी थॉट नहीं आई और अगले कपलेट तक वो थॉट कंटिन्यू कर रही है और उसके लिए आपको और कपलेट की ज़रूरत पड़ी उसको कंप्लीट करने के लिए. वो एक कपलेट में एक कंप्लीट थॉट और एक कंप्लीट आइडिया एक ही कपलेट में पूरा हो जाता था पोप की पोइट्री में. तो उनका ये जो एसे ऑन मैन, एसे ऑन क्रिटिसिज्म, देन हिज famous, very famous work was The Rape of the Lock. Now, why is it so famous? Till today we are studying it in all our syllabi, The Rape of the Lock. Now, he is using a very serious word like rape, but it is not the rape of a person, but the rape of a lock of hair of a lady. And one gentleman in the court, he cuts off a lock of hair of a lady, Arabella, and there she gets very angry, and the two families of this, the family of the lady and the family of the gentleman, they quarrel over this, and there is really a very serious fight amongst the two families. So Pope wrote it so that he could somehow make those families see it in a humorous way, and then they become friends again. So what he did was that he takes this very trivial incident. It's a very small incident. It's very trivial, insignificant कि एक कोटियर एक लेडी के बाल काटता है एक थोड़े, और वो एक प्रैंक टाइप प्ले कर रहा है, मगर पोप ने उसको जिस तरह से लिखा जैसे एपिक पोइट्री होती थी हमारी, जैसे हमारी एपिक्स हैं, महाभारत है, रामायण, जैसे होमर की एपिक्स हैं, इलियड एंड ओडिसी. तो जैसे लोग दो आर्मीज एक दूसरे को अटैक करने के लिए तैयारी करती हैं, उस तरह की जो डिस्क्रिप्शंस हैं, पोप हैज़ यूज्ड दैट फॉर दिस एपिक, मॉक एपिक जिसको हम कहते हैं. मॉक एपिक क्यों? क्योंकि एपिक नहीं है, ये छोटा इंसिडेंट है, कोई वॉर नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, बट जो डिस्क्रिप्शन है वो उस तरह से किया उसने जैसे कि एक वॉर की डिस्क्रिप्शन होती है. जैसे एपिक मशीनरी सारी यूज़ करी है, ऑल द टूल्स एंड डिवाइसेस ऑफ एन एपिक टू ट्रीट अ वेरी insignificant subject. So that creates a lot of humor and irony, and he shows many follies of the ladies of those times who were so given to fashion, and he mocks all that. So it's a mock epic and it's very popular. The Rape of the Lock, and everybody knows Pope by this work. And of course, there was that very famous satirical work also, the Dunciad. Now, what is the Dunciad? Dunciad is also a satire written by Pope, in which he shows that all his rivals, his critics, what he draws portraits of all these people and makes fun of them because he thinks they're all dunces, because they are foolish, they are stupid. Only Pope is wise. So he tries to make fun of all his rivals and his critics through the Dunciad, and the Dunciad is actually seen as something, that he took this liberty to make fun of so many people through his work, and he gives them different names and he makes fun of them. So his satire is very famous, and his translations of the Iliad and the Odyssey, the works of Homer, they were very popular. First, he translated the Iliad into English, then he translated the Odyssey, but in Odyssey, he was helped later by some other writers also. They helped him to translate. So, these two works made him very rich. He got a lot of money out of these translations, and which were selling a lot. And he bought a big villa in which he was living till he died in 1744. So Pope was a great critic, he was a poet, and he was a great translator, and he followed all the classical rules to perfection. So there has been a great debate also many times that is Pope really as good a poet as Shakespeare and Milton? I mean, can we put him in that slot? तो ये एक डिबेट रही है हमेशा स्कॉलर्स में कि क्या पोप उस दर्जे का पोएट था जैसे कि शेक्सपियर और मिल्टन थे. तो कुछ लोग इससे एग्री नहीं करते हैं, बहुत लोग एग्री नहीं करते हैं, बिकॉज पोप की पोइट्री बहुत लिमिटेड थी. हेरोइक कपलेट की रिस्ट्रिक्शन थी, हर एक चीज़ हेरोइक कपलेट में लिखते थे, और उसमें इमेजिनेशन नहीं था, उसमें डेप्थ नहीं था, उसमें इमोशंस नहीं थे जो रोमांटिक पोइट्री में या फिर रेनेसां पोइट्री में थे. इंडिविजुअल फीलिंग्स or love for nature, nothing was there. There were no descriptions of nature. It was all urban poetry and about people who are from that very age. So it had no universality also. वो आज हम पढ़ेंगे तो हमें नहीं पता चलेगा कि ये कौन सा आदमी था जिसके बारे में लिख रहे थे, कौन सा इशू चल रहा था. सो जो पोइट्री ऐसे इशू बेस्ड या एक पर्सन पे बेस्ड होती है, उस टाइम का कोई इंसान या इशू है, तो उससे हम इतना रिलेट नहीं कर पाते जितना कि हम एक यूनिवर्सल टाइप ऑफ पोइट्री जिसमें कोई उस वक्त की कोई बंदिश नहीं है और वो हमेशा हमेशा के लिए एप्लीकेबल रहती है. जैसे शेक्सपियर और मिल्टन की पोइट्री है, ऑल द ग्रेट पोइट्री ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, वो हमेशा फ्रेश रहती है बिकॉज उसमें कोई ऐसा टाइम बाउंड चीज़ें नहीं लिखी जाती हैं. तो वो इमोशंस यूनिवर्सल होते हैं, टाइमलेस होते हैं. बट in Pope's poetry, this did not apply, and it did not apply in any of the most of the neoclassic works, because they used to write about those subjects of the London of those days, the problems, the politics of those days, and so it used to limit their works. So that is why there is this debate. और कुछ कुछ वर्षों के बाद ये एक नया पर्सपेक्टिव आता है, नए क्रिटिक्स, नए स्कॉलर्स उसको रिव्यू करते हैं, एंड देन दे से नो, ही वाज अ ग्रेट पोएट, but it was only that he was a different kind of poet. So maybe we can put him in the second order of poets and not in the highest order of poets like Shakespeare and Milton. So we cannot belittle Pope's work, because a lot of hard work, a lot of craftsmanship, a lot of intellect and reason has gone into his work to make it quite enjoyable, because The Rape of the Lock is a work which is so delightfully humorous and witty that everybody wants to always read it and enjoy it, because it creates so much of fun for us. When we feel that, look, this lady, look at her, what is her response, as if, this has been a great offense, a great crime, that somebody comes and cuts off a lock of her hair. And for that, there is so much of, chaos and anger and revenge. So it makes it very funny, the mock epic style. And of course, the way he attacks the dunces, the so called dunces of his times, that also gives us a lot of humor and irony. So his satire is rather personal. He attacks typical, I mean, specific people through his satire, and he's very vengeful at times, and he's very nasty. He can be very nasty to his rivals and to his critics also, because he did not like anybody criticizing his works at all, because he thought that he had written them to perfection. So Alexander Pope is the dominant influence, but then there are other people, but those people, those writers are known more for their prose, because this is an age of prose and satire. So Jonathan Swift is the other great figure of this era. So Jonathan Swift, everybody, whenever we hear the name of Jonathan Swift, we think of Gulliver's Travels. His story Gulliver's Travels, which is also sometimes adapted as a children's book, and children like to read about Gulliver when he goes to the land of the pygmies, the Lilliputians, and he's like a giant among them. So that fascinates the children. So there are 4 books in Gulliver's Travels, and in 2 of the books, the first 2 books, his satire, Swift's satire, is not so harsh. It's okay. I mean, you can bear it. Yes, there is some charm in the first 2 books. But in the last 2 books of Gulliver's Travels, Jonathan Swift's hatred for human beings, his hatred for everybody in this world, that comes out. It emerges in a very bitter manner, in a very actually hateful, not full of hatred, a manner full of hatred. तो इतनी नफरत उसको थी, स्विफ्ट को, इस दुनिया से, दुनिया के लोगों से, कि वो सारी उसने वो गलिवर्स ट्रैवल्स की 2 लास्ट बुक्स में वो हमें दिखती है. तो ये इसलिए था बिकॉज उसकी टेम्परामेंट ऐसी थी, उसको ज़्यादा लोगों से कुछ लेना देना नहीं था. ही वॉज a different kind of a person who had lot of suffering also in his life, and he had no trust in humanity, and he thought that humanity was really something to be ashamed of, and it was a bad kind of a community. Human beings were the worst creatures in this world. तो वो जो सटायर है, वेरी हार्श सटायर, लेकिन वो किसी पर्सन के अगेंस्ट नहीं है उसका अटैक. जैसे पोप है, वो पर्सन्स को अटैक करता था थ्रू हिज वर्क्स, बट स्विफ्ट वॉज नॉट अटैकिंग इंडिविजुअल्स और एनी particular persons. He was attacking humanity in general. He said that all human beings are useless and they don't deserve anything and they are really bad. So this hatred was rather unnatural. But if we don't look at this hatred and we just read his prose, his work, his style, that is really admirable, because it is very clean, plain, direct prose, which is regarded as one of the most beautiful styles we find in English literature. So Jonathan Swift may be hating men, but the way he created his works, his language, his style was really admirable, and it was very direct prose, plain language. it never gets complicated at all. And his other works, like you have Tale of a Tub, which is a religious satire. Then you have Battle of Books, which is a conflict between ancient writers and modern writers. Now, who is to decide that which are better? Are the ancient writers better, or are the modern writers better? So that is again a satire. So his main works are Gulliver's Travels, Battle of Books, Tale of a Tub. His satirical works also are very important part of the age of Pope, or the Augustan age. So Swift was also an essayist. He wrote some essays also, but it was realized that his talent was too big to be confined to the essay form. essay उसके लिए एक बहुत छोटा फॉर्म हो जाता. उसकी जो ग्रेट इंटेलेक्ट और ग्रेट टैलेंट था स्विफ्ट का, उसके लिए ऐसे ठीक फॉर्म नहीं है. उसके लिए उसको एक तरह का बड़ा वर्क चाहिए जिसमें वो जस्टिस कर सके अपने टैलेंट के साथ. तो इसी तरह से गलिवर्स ट्रैवल जो है, गलिवर्स ट्रैवल्स कुछ लोग उसको नॉवल का नाम देते हैं, बट वो नॉवल नहीं है. You can't see it as a novel. It is a prose work. It tells the story, but it is not conforming to the novel form. So we cannot call it a novel. It is a satirical prose work which tells the story, but these are all allegorical satires. Swift was writing allegorical satires. That means under the disguise of an allegorical story, he is making his attacks on humanity and on other things, on poetry, on some modern poets, on some religious leaders. So it is all governed by allegory, so that direct attack is not there, or people cannot really identify whom he is targeting. Is it a special person he is targeting? So Swift is the other big name. And then you have Daniel Defoe. Daniel Defoe was actually the pioneer of the novel, English novel, and the pioneer of journalism, journalistic writing also, because there was a lot of political activity, as I told you, which started from Restoration itself, and all that every writer had some political affiliations. कोई किसी पार्टी के लिए लिखता था, कोई किसी पार्टी में बिलीव करता था. तो जो ऑथर्स थे उनको पार्टी वाले अट्रैक्ट करते थे और उनसे अपने बारे में कुछ अच्छी चीज़ें लिखवाते भी थे. तो उस तरह से Defoe was into journalistic writing, and there were many political pamphlets coming out in those days. Pamphleteering बहुत थी, तो pamphlets लिखते थे वो parties के लिए, और भी issues पे लिखते थे. So Defoe was one of the pioneers. He was the pioneer of journalistic writing, and he was the pioneer of the novel because his work, Robinson Crusoe, came in this era, and Robinson Crusoe is regarded as the first novel of English. फर्स्ट नॉवल. ऑल्दो कुछ लोग बोलते हैं कि जो जॉन बनियन ने पहले लिखा था इन द एज ऑफ ड्राइडन, जो द पिलग्रिम्स प्रोग्रेस लिखा है, उसको भी एक तरह का नॉवल माना जाता है. लेकिन जो प्रॉपर हम देखते हैं तो फर्स्ट नॉवल को अक्सर डैनियल डेफोज रॉबिन्सन क्रूसो ही माना जाता है. रॉबिन्सन क्रूसो वॉज दिस wonderful story of Crusoe's adventures on an island where he is marooned for many years, and for some years he even lives all alone on that island, and how he creates a new world for himself on that island. And then he later discovers Man Friday, whom he names Man Friday because he meets him on a Friday, and he becomes a kind of his assistant and disciple, that Man Friday. And it's a very interesting story. So Robinson Crusoe we all know, and we know that it is actually the first novel. So this age is very important because it gave us the novel, the first novel, or the flourishing of the novel started. and then it gave us journalistic writing, the beginning of journalistic writing also. Then it gave us the beginning of satires. Then it gave us the beginning of one very beautiful form of writing which is as fresh today as it was then. वो था periodical essay. What is periodical essay? पहले ऐसे आते थे, फ्रांसिस बेकन ने ऐसे बहुत अच्छे ऐसे लिखे थे एलिजबेथन उसमें रेनेसां एरा में। तो वो ऐसे जो थे वो एक किताब के रूप में इकट्ठे करके छाप दिए जाते थे और लोग उनको स्टोरीज की तरह पढ़ते थे। पर वो ऐसे अलग हो गया। जो पीरियोडिकल ऐसे होता था जो इस एज में स्टार्ट हुआ, वो ऐसा होता था, मैगजीन्स निकालते थे कुछ लोग, मैगजीन में वो ऐसे आता था, या तो वो हफ्ते में 3 बार निकलती थी मैगजीन, या वो हफ्ते में 2 बार, या हफ्ते में 1 बार। तो लोग उसको खरीद के पढ़ते थे और वो बहुत दे यूज टू लुक फॉरवर्ड कि अब अगले हफ्ते में कौन सा ऐसे आएगा। अब ये तो वो एक पीरियड के बाद आता था ना, कभी 3 दिन बाद आता था वो अखबार, कभी कोई अखबार एक हफ्ते में, कोई डेली भी आता था। तो वो एक जो पीरियोडिसिटी है वो मेंटेन करते थे। तो वो पीरियोडिकल ऐसे इसलिए कहलाया वो। तो पीरियोडिकल ऐसे के जो पाइनियर माने जाते हैं, जो मोस्ट फेमस एसेइस्ट हुए हैं पीरियोडिकल ऐसे के, वो इस एज में थे, आए एज ऑफ पोप में। उनका नाम था रिचर्ड स्टील एंड जोसेफ एडिसन। ये दोनों जो थे फ्रेंड्स थे कॉलेज टाइम से, और दोनों बहुत अच्छी तरह से साथ में काम कर पाते थे। तो पहले स्टील ने स्टार्ट किया था टैटलर, द टैटलर। वो हफ्ते में 3 बार आता था टैटलर। तो उसमें एडिसन used to write also, and Steele also used to write essays, and some other people also used to contribute. तो टैटलर was very popular, लेकिन कुछ वजह से टैटलर फिर बंद कर दिया 1711 में, और दूसरा स्टार्ट करा उन्होंने द स्पेक्टेटर। तो द स्पेक्टेटर जो मैगजीन स्टार्ट करी वो बहुत ही पॉपुलर रही, और उसमें एडिसन ने भी बहुत एसेज लिखे, स्टील ने भी बहुत एसेज लिखे। तो मेनली इन्हीं दोनों ने उसको चलाया, स्पेक्टेटर को। अब स्पेक्टेटर का क्या खास मुकाम रहा कि स्पेक्टेटर में जो एसेज लिख रहे थे वो एक मॉरल टोन के एसेज थे, क्योंकि रेस्टोरेशन पीरियड में बहुत इमोरलिटी रही, लाइफ में भी, ड्रामा में भी, हर जगह, कोर्ट में भी। तो वो उस इमोरलिटी को चेक करने के लिए एडिसन और स्टील ने एक मॉरल टोन लिया कि भाई नाउ दीज एसेज आर गोइंग टू बी लाइक अ मिरर टू सोसाइटी, एंड ऑल्सो दे आर गोइंग टू मॉनिटर सोसाइटी। देख रहे हैं सोसाइटी को भी, हम लोग देख रहे हैं क्या क्या प्रैक्टिसेस हैं जो अच्छी नहीं चल रही हैं। तो उनको थोड़ा सा क्योर करने के लिए वो एक ह्यूमर उन्होंने यूज़ करा, और बहुत ही बेनेवलेंट और जेनरस तरीके से वो ह्यूमर था। ऐसा नहीं था कि किसी को अब्यूज़ कर रहे हैं या किसी को बोल रहे हैं, डांट रहे हैं, कुछ नहीं। स्ट्रिक्टनेस नहीं थी, कुछ नहीं था, नॉट नथिंग लाइक स्विफ्ट और पोप, नो एंगर, नो बिटरनेस। तो वो बड़े फ्रेंडली वे में और ह्यूमरस वे में ऐसी ऐसी चीज़ें डिस्क्राइब करते थे जिससे कि लोग पढ़ें तो उन्हें लगे कि हाँ ये गलती तो हम भी कर रहे हैं, तो हमें नहीं करनी चाहिए, हम बड़े फूलिश लगते होंगे ये गलती करते हुए। तो ना प्यार से ही लोगों को वो समझा रहे थे अपने एसेस के थ्रू कि ये चीज़ें नहीं होनी चाहिए, इनको थोड़ा ध्यान करो। तो इतने ऐसे एक फ्रेंडशिप सी बनी हुई जैसे रीडर और राइटर में बन गई उन एसेज में। दे आर वेरी वेरी चार्मिंग, वेरी जेंटल essays, like on devotion, on faith, on cheerfulness, and जो उनके स्पेशल essays थे, जो एक कैरेक्टर क्रिएट करा रिचर्ड स्टील ने, सर रॉजर डी कवर्ली। और सर रॉजर डी कवर्ली एक ओल्ड कंट्री नाइट बनाया है, एंड ही इज़ ही कम्स टू दिस स्पेक्टेटर क्लब। देर इज़ अ क्लब जिसका नाम रख दिया है स्पेक्टेटर क्लब। अब उसमें ये आता है रॉजर डी कवर्ली, उसके बाद एंड्रू फ्रीपोर्ट, विल हनीकोम, then Captain Sentry, and Mr. Spectator. Mr. Spectator comes and he sees what is going on in this club and what are the conversations. यहाँ पे क्या क्या हो रहा है क्लब में, कौन सी गॉसिप हो रही है, कौन सी डिस्कशंस हो रही हैं. तो वो एक जो कैरेक्टर्स क्रिएट कर दिए और उनके इर्द गिर्द काफ़ी सारे एसेस लिखे गए जिन्हें हम कवरली पेपर्स कहते हैं, कवरली एसेस जो है कवरली के बारे में. तो वो स्पेक्टेटर क्लब एसेस इतने पॉपुलर हुए कि अगर आई मीन ऑल पीपल थिंक क्रिटिक्स से दैट थोड़ा सा प्लॉट अगर और कर देते, उसमें प्लॉट को थोड़ा और स्ट्रॉन्ग बना देते एडिसन, तो शायद वो एक नॉवल बन जाता. और वो ही उसमें नॉवल की मेन सब इंग्रेडिएंट्स तो थे, लेकिन जो प्लॉट था वो वीक था. वो कोई यूनिफाइड प्लॉट नहीं था. कभी वो रॉजर डी कवरली कुछ करता है, कभी कुछ करता है, कभी कहीं जाता है. तो वो एक यूनिफाइड स्टोरी नहीं हो रही थी. नहीं तो अगर यूनिफाइड हो जाती तो वो एक नॉवल बन जाता. एंड पीपल थिंक दैट यस, इफ एडिसन हैड डन दैट, then he would have written a better novel than other novelists of the time, because he was a great writer. उसका जो स्टाइल था, उसका प्रोज, everything is so charming and so wonderful that those essays, even if you read today, as we all read in our courses, so those essays are very fresh and they make you laugh and smile and be, you know, they are very pleasant also. Even while they are being moralistic, दे आर ट्राइंग टू से कि ये प्रैक्टिस ठीक नहीं है, लेडीज़ को इतना ज़्यादा फैशन पे ध्यान नहीं देना चाहिए. उन दिनों में भी ये चीज़ें बहुत चल रही थी, यू नो, हाई सोसाइटी, टू मैनी फैशनेबल थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग एंड एवरीथिंग इज़ बेस्ड अराउंड फैशन एंड ड्राइंग रूम्स एंड यू नो their dressing rooms, so many vanities of ladies he talks about. So you know, एक पहले कभी लेडीज़ के लिए इतना कुछ नहीं लिखा गया था लिटरेचर में, स्पेसिफिकली उनके बारे में, उनकी दिनचर्या के बारे में, उनके वो किस तरह से पेश आती हैं. तो वो सारी चीज़ें जो है वो एडिसन ने इन एसेज में लिखी, Addison and Steele. And that is why there were so many women readers, because women wanted to know कि वो क्या लिखते हैं भाई, हमारे बारे में, सोसाइटी के बारे में क्या लिखा जा रहा है, क्या वो सोचते हैं. तो एडिसन एंड स्टील वर वेरी रिस्पेक्टेड figures of this age of Pope, and people really loved to read the periodical essay, and the Tatler and Spectator were very popular magazines, and both of them contained like roughly at least, you know, there were more than between somewhere between 500 to 600 essays we have. So even if we keep reading today, we have a huge collection of Addison. So their contribution to society and their contribution to literature cannot be overlooked at all. They were two very important figures of this era of age and this age of prose and reason which we are studying. So their contribution to the development of English prose is highly respected, and it is very crucial for us to remember that how Steele had certain strengths, Addison had some other strengths. So when they started working together, then they complemented each other. You know, whatever was lacking in one, that was compensated for by the skills of the other. So the periodical essay was established very strongly by Addison and Steele in this period. And after that, of course, Addison had written some other things. He wrote a tragedy also called Cato, and Steele wrote some comic plays, but they are not much to talk about, and that is why these two writers are known prominently as essayists. And essayists, you know, they are always very important people, because they wrote about contemporary London, contemporary society, every day what was happening around them. As I told you, the coffee house and club culture was very popular during these days, and it started with the Restoration and it carried on. But we must remember that in 1702, Queen Anne had come to the throne, and till 1714, Queen Anne was ruling. But after 1714 till 1830, we have the rule of four Georges: George 1, George 2, George 3, George 4. So this sometimes is also called the Georgian period. If you count it from 1714 to 1830, sometimes it is called Georgian period, but mostly it is called, it is divided between Augustan age and between the age of sensibility or age of Dr. Johnson, which is also called the age of transition. So it's not usually called by the names of those four monarchs who were George 1, George 2, George 3, and George 4. So this was the stability which Queen Anne's rule gave to England and to English writers. That was also important, although it was only for 12 years, from 1702 to 1714. Queen Anne's rule was quite problem free, and it was stable. And for those 12 years, yes, a lot of good writing came in. And since, if there is no political turmoil, no religious turmoil, so writers can easily give their best to society, and that's what was happening. And the Restoration trends were fading, and things were coming back to more towards morality, and because morality had suffered a lot in the age of Dryden. And Pope, as we know, he was a Roman Catholic. So, being a Roman Catholic, he was never in favor with the government, and he was not given any government job, or any post or designation or any favor from the government. So that is what even made him more bitter at times, that because of his faith he was not able to reach that kind of prominence. But despite all that, he is the ruling figure of this age of prose and reason. And reason, of course, was given complete preference over imagination during this time. And still, the same rules of classicism were being followed very strictly. There was great limitation due to the heroic couplet. Everything had to be fitted within the form of heroic couplet. So the form was very important for them. Form was much more important than content. And that is why Pope is called a versifier mostly, and not a great imaginative poet of the order of Shakespeare or Wordsworth or Milton, because they wrote in various kind of stanzas, and they used a lot of blank verse, and blank verse gave them the freedom for their flights of imagination, and for the depths of emotion, which Pope's poetry is greatly lacking in. Pope की poetry में आपको कोई भी इस तरह की loftiness और height of imagination and individualism कुछ नहीं है. He thinks that the proper study of mankind is man. So he thinks that आपको अगर कुछ भी स्टडी करना है, मैनकाइंड को स्टडी करना है, तो मैन को स्टडी करो. देयर वाज नथिंग के डिवाइन फोर्सेस को स्टडी करो, या भगवान को या गॉड को देखो. व्हाट आर दोज फोर्सेस? नथिंग सुपर नेचुरल, नथिंग डिवाइन. हर एक चीज़ यही है, अभी है. इंसान को देखो, इंसान को स्टडी करो, इंसान के बारे में लिखो, सोसाइटी के बारे में लिखो. सो इट वॉज ऑल वेरी लिमिटेड टू मैन एज अ सोशल बीइंग ओनली. उसके बियॉन्ड कुछ नहीं. नो सबलिमिटी, नो डिवाइन interventions. And there was this was a big limiting feature of Dryden's age also, especially of Pope's age, because Dryden के टाइम पे थोड़ा सा लिबरल था, हाउ टू फॉलो द रूल्स, उसमें थोड़ा फ्रीडम था. बट पोप के टाइम में ये जो स्ट्रिक्टनेस है ये बढ़ती गई, रूल्स को फॉलो करने की स्ट्रिक्टनेस बहुत ज़्यादा हो गई. एंड ही वॉज अ ग्रेट स्टिकलर फॉर following, adhering to these rules, to the unities, to all the classic rules. So it is just against this that the revolution started after 1744. When he died, people started reacting against all these rules, and the literature started going out of this bound of classicism. And there were many poets who started bringing nature and emotions back into their poetry, and nobody wanted to follow the heroic couplet all the time. They started looking at other stanza forms. So that we will talk about in the next lecture, which is going to be about the age of Dr. Johnson, or the age of transition. So thank you, students. We'll continue with this. Thank you.